let's dive in. Well, let's make sure that I'm able to share my screen with everybody. So here we go. So hopefully I'm presenting and everyone can see the title card here. Please chirp up if that's not the case. So yeah, we're going to dive into an assessment and development session. So we're going to be looking at that part of our teaching methodology and this part of the lesson that you get to with your students. So in the session today, like I said, we'll be touching on some of our teaching methodology. We're going to touch on a little bit of physiology and physics, so get ready for that. We're going to talk about an assessment strategy and some general tips that I give staff here in Whistler and candidates going for their different levels. And similar for a development strategy, I'll maybe go through a development strategy for the students or the skiers that we're going to watch. And as well as I'll outline some, again, general advice that I give to staff and candidates around development strategies. So if your lesson was a meal, the assessment and development is the main course. It's the main event. It's what people there for, and it's what you're going to spend most of your time doing in your lesson. But there are some things that go around the A&D, the assessment and development, that again can really enhance it. If your lesson was only A&D and there was nothing else around it, it'd be a pretty bland experience. And if it was missing, then it's not really a lesson. So what does that look like in our teaching approach? Well, in the CSIA, we've got this great collaborative teaching approach. And the assessment and development is really that circle around the outside where we're creating an experience, assessing the experience, exploring the possibilities, running through that cycle. And this is what you're going to spend most of your time doing in the lesson. But there's a really, really important part of this, which is how each one of those elements around the outside that we're going through in this cycle all relates to this little inner circle here, knowing your learner and understanding who your student is. And there's a really important part of that I think really makes assessment and development, well, definitely a lot stronger and a lot easier for the instructor. So we're going to look at some of these and see which one of these can really enhance our assessment and development. So a question you might ask yourself when you look at a skier might be, well, what's wrong with their skiing? Seems like a sensible question to ask. But in reality, there really isn't anything wrong with this kid skiing. If he can go on the mountain and enjoy his day, get where he wants to go, he can finish the end of the day with a big smile on his face, and he's had a great day skiing. So good for him. But if our student has aspirations to go faster, ski some steeper runs, get on different terrain, maybe have more endurance, getting out of a wedge stance, then there's a lot of things we can do to help him out. So the point is that we need to understand our students' aspirations. So we need to set some goals. It's really important that we understand why our students book a lesson, and you can sort of collaborate with them on the goals to make sure that they're appropriate for their skill level and the time that you have. So at this part of the lesson, you want to be a detective. So 2 questions I think if you added to the start of every lesson would get your lesson started and going in the right direction and make your assessment of your students a little bit more specific and targeted, a little easier for you. Would be these 2 questions. So what made you book a lesson today? What do you find challenging about skiing? They might have a specific answer to the first question, or it might be quite vague. Oh, I don't know, I just wanted some general tips. Okay, well, we don't want to avoid just teaching technique for the sake of technique. We want to set a good goal for our students so we feel like we've achieved something in the day. So, what do you find challenging about skiing? Hopefully they can reflect on that, say, well, hey, maybe I feel really good when I'm on the groomers, but when I get into the bumps, I find it really difficult. Maybe they'll answer, well, I'm always the slowest in my group of friends when we go skiing. I'm always the slowest, how could I ski faster? I'm going to say, great, is that a goal that we want to work on today? And off we go. So now when we're watching our student ski, we have a different question in our head. Well, our question is, how can we help them achieve their goal? And what are some of the limiting factors maybe holding them back from achieving their goal? So let's look at an assessment approach. So here are some of the general tips. Here's some of the common advice that I find myself giving to staff here at Whistler or candidates. It's really important, I put this at number 1, that you set a very clear objective, that we've got a speed and a turn shape and a ski performance that we're looking for. Because again, if we're watching someone ski down and there really isn't an objective, then yeah, good run, that was fine. But if there's an objective and there's a ski performance and a turn shape and a speed we're trying to achieve, then we can evaluate and make adjustments and ask ourselves, well, did we actually achieve what we wanted to achieve that run? Second is take your time. You don't want to set your lesson for the whole day based on, watching a couple of turns, making a snap judgment, and then that's it, my lesson's all about that. Take your time, get your student warmed up. I would call this, a general assessment where again, I'm working with objectives, trying to make sure we're skiing a comfortable, speed, turn shape, and performance for setting my student up for the day. And there's a few examples on the next slide. When I'm watching my student in more detail, I find watching the skis first really useful. The skis don't lie. So are the skis staying parallel through the top, middle, bottom of the turn? Do the skis, are they tipping or twisting? Are the skis skidding, carving, steering how we want? Are the skis behaving the same or differently? Are they both tipping the same amount, or is one tipping more than the other? Again, you can give yourself every opportunity to make a good assessment and feel confident about it. So watch from every angle, have them ski towards you, past you, away from you, and on the appropriate terrain. So thinking about that student that, wanting to do some advanced short turns on black terrain. Okay, we can warm up on something a little easier, get ourselves moving, talk about the turn shape. But then when I really want to see how they're doing in short turns on a black run, let's make sure we're on a black run doing some short turns. And then finally, if you're not sure, watch again. Keep watching. I was going to say, actually, that's kind of redundant because, again, throughout the day, we're always watching. You're never not watching your student and evaluating and assessing. Assessing is something that happens not just at the start of the lesson, it happens continually through to the end. But also just follow in behind and copy. If you're not sure what's going on, step into their ski boots, if you like, follow and copy. And that can give you a bit of insight into how they're moving and how they're skiing. So I talked about setting the objective. So here's a couple of examples of how we might, set an objective for our students. So using those examples that I gave, an intermediate student who wants to get off the groomers and into the bumps, making sure that we're, working with a shorter turn, making sure that they can actually achieve a shorter turn. Can they maintain a rhythm? Can they vary a rhythm? This is maybe something that's going to be important for setting them up for success. Can we maintain speed in a shorter turn? Or if we have an intermediate or advanced skier who's looking for more speed and ski performance, well, are they twisting the ski more than tipping the ski? Are they using a shorter turn shape rather than taking that turn shape down the hill? How much deflection are they getting from their skis? So again, if we've got a really clear objective, we can look at how our students are achieving it or not. And then what part of their skiing is maybe, again, trying to find that limiting factor. What's going to unlock their potential to help them achieve the objective. So let's watch what I call an inspiration skier. I like to have a really good picture of good skiing in my head. So again, I found a video here. This is from 2015. And I chose this just because the objective in this video is the same as the first skier we're going to watch. They're going to be skiing, a 9-ish meter corridor. So let's get this video started here. Find the right point. So the good thing here is actually we get to watch in full speed, and then we actually get to see the run in slow motion afterwards. So I'll let the video run here. So immediately, without even seeing the skis, you can see the skier getting really good deflection. Okay, you get to really see the skier, you know, balancing on the edges of the skis. And you can see how the base of support, the skis, are pushing the skier across the hill and deflecting, you know, the center of mass. Okay, and at full speed, you get a really sense of smooth turn linking and moving from arc to arc. So now watching in slow motion, you know, you get to see, you know, the active balancing the skier is doing to maintain balance in the middle of the skis. And even as when the skis, you know, accelerate at the end of the turn, you know, like here, there's this recentering and finding balance again in the middle of the ski. You also see the, you know, capture of the mass at the top of the arc, then the release of the mass at the end, allowing the mass to, you know, topple over the skis to link the turn smoothly. You really see the skis moving, you know, nicely from one set of edges to the next. So it's really important that I really like to have a really good, clear picture of some good skiing in my head. And then when we're watching a student or a candidate, we're playing spot the difference. So let's go watch a skier here. So let's go find the spot in the video. Here we go. So like before, so we'll play this, you know, full speed, and then we'll watch it again in slow motion. Now, this skier here, you might notice a few brushes on in the snow here. I think this is taken from our tech champs in Whistler from a few years ago. So we're skiing in a corridor, and I don't know if everyone skied a corridor, but it's just two lines of brushes, and you're skiing between them. So the objective really here is, well, a corridor, when it's done like this, really just measures ski performance. So we're just looking for high ski performance. So you're trying to ski as fast as you can down the corridor and make as many turns as possible. So you know, if you have someone, you know, who came down like really fast, made 10 turns, okay, you might challenge them to maybe try and ski the same speed but make 11 or 12 turns. Okay, and get more performance out of the skis. So when we're watching this skier, let's watch the skis. Let's watch the deflection across the hill, and let's watch it, see if they're, you know, linking smoothly between the turns. So I'll let this run at full speed. Now, and the question here again, I'm thinking, okay, is he achieving, you know, the objective here? Are we, you know, skiing the corridor? Are we skiing fast? Are we are we letting the skis push us across the hill with high performance? And undoubtedly, this is a strong skier. This is a really, you know, it's a good advanced skier here. But let's watch again in slow motion. And so now my question is going to be, well, what's the limiting factor for this skier? How can we unlock more performance for this skier? Because again, the objective here is just maximizing ski performance. So what I first notice is, you know, before I can see the skis here, I do notice how tall this skier tends to stand between the turns. This is before I can even, you know, see the skis on the snow. And he comes down and, oh, actually, I did choose this video because we do make a little error on, you know, on one turn there, the skis get ahead of us. But again, is that the limiting factor for performance here? We could definitely say, you know, oh, you know, hey, I noticed you got a little out of balance on one turn, and, you know, start working on that. But again, that's, you know, this skier doesn't really suffer from being too far back. That's not the consistent limitation on his ski performance here. So that's what we're really looking for. So as we continue to watch, what I noticed is, again, you know, rising up a little in the transition. And while we sort of like incline and tip the skis on edges, after the fall line, the skis do tend to break away. Instead of pushing the skier across the hill, I see the skis breaking away a little. Let's watch again. There. And that's what I sort of see happening fairly consistently. If I freeze frame here, we do find a little giveaway at what's happening with this skier here. So what I notice is the back of the ski tends to break away. And again, the skis don't lie. So that's telling me that this skier, his stance is a little forward. So he's getting grip from the front of the ski, but not the back. And, you know, we buy some beautiful, expensive skis. We might as well get the whole ski working for us, right? So we can make a little comparison here with, you know, that our sort of, you know, imaginary, you know, skier and, you know, what's happening here. So, you know, you're noticing, you know, the picture here on the left, our ski is sort of stacked over his outside ski, shoulders and hips are level, balanced on his edges on the outside ski. And that leads to a good athletic stance when the skis are flat in the transition. And from this more athletic stance, it really does allow the legs to turn and get the skis from edge to edge nicely without encouraging much movement from the upper body. Compared to our skier coming down the corridor here, what I notice is that he's definitely more inclined and he's, you know, not as balanced on the outside ski. The main reason here is the difference in stance on his skis. Let's go back here. So I'm just going to draw on our skier here. So with you know, skier one, so you get some, you know, fairly level shoulders, fairly level hips, and we see some good, you know, bit of angulation there. Skier two, the shoulders a little bit more tipped, hips a little bit more tipped, and a little less angulation. So this skier here has a really solid platform and is balanced in the middle of the ski, and this skier here doesn't have such a solid platform. I also see quite, you know, a bit of lead change, quite a big gap between the tips of the ski, so that outside foot is, you know, being left behind a little bit. All clues telling me that he's not getting grip from the whole ski. And we can see the result in the transition. Skier one here, when we release pressure on the outside ski, that allows us to topple smoothly into the next turn. If we're not as balanced on the outside ski, we don't have that pressure to release, so we end up making a bit of a upwards motion. We use an extension motion to link the turns here, which encourages more twisting of the skis rather than tipping edge to edge, and can encourages a bit more twisting with the upper body. So let's get rid of my pen. So let's look at, you know, again, balancing in the middle of the ski. This, you know, just shows where, you know, if we bring our weight backwards, that we have more weight at the back. If we bring our weight forwards, a bit more weight at the front. And what we're after is good balance along the length of the ski. I like to think about if we switch these arrows up so they're pointing up, this is really where you're going to feel grip. So if I move my weight back, I'm going to feel more grip at the back of the ski. If I move my weight forward, I'll feel more weight at the front. And what the holy grail of what we're looking for is we're looking for grip from the whole length of the ski here. And if we look down at the bottom left, you'll see like at the sort of the point that we're looking for. I like to think of this as our little bullseye of where we're trying to hit with our balance. And it's no coincidence that this little sweet spot here underneath the heel. Oh, let's sorry, go back. This little sweet spot underneath the heel, it's no coincidence. This is where the shin bone inserts into the ankle. So we're working with our anatomy here, and when we turn our leg, this is where we should be turning our heel from. If our balance shifts forward, then we're not really working with our physiology to turn our skis. So when we're working with fore and aft balance, there are three joints that we're talking about: hips, knees, and ankles. So two of these joints, when we flex them, will bring our center of mass forwards. And that's there, you know, you can see the ankle at the bottom and the hip at the top. And if we bend our knee, this is what's going to bring our hips low, down, and back. So with that, yeah, we're going to focus on getting them to the action of bending the knee to bring the hips a little lower, a little further back, to try and find the center of the ski and balance at the back of the arch or in front of the heel pad. So actually what I'll do now is I'll encourage you, if you've just to go into the chat here, just type in the chat and share with us, well, what do you do? What strategies do you have for getting students balanced in the middle of their skis? There's lots of different options out there for, you know, beginners, intermediate, advanced, experts. Lots of different strategies. So share that in the chat, and then later on we'll come back and Amy can maybe share some of those with us. Maybe some of those will pop up in the development strategy that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So before we jump into the development strategy for this skier, I'll share with you again some of the general tips that I've given over the years to, again, instructors and candidates. And then when we're going through the development strategy for, you know, skier 1 and skier 2, again, see if you can spot some of these that I'm using in the development strategies. So number 1 is definitely set your student up for success. So you've got to choose, obviously, you know, the right terrain and snow conditions, and choose a comfortable speed and turn shape and all of that. I like to think about this, really optimize learning here. This is what you really need to optimize the environment for learning. So you're really choosing everything from, you know, the objective that I talked about, but also the rest of the environment. So, you know, a low traffic area, we've only got so much attention we can give. So, you know, if it's really busy, we need to give more attention to what's going on around us than what we're doing with our bodies. If it's quiet and we feel comfortable, we can be a little bit more internal when we're skiing and feel the feelings that we're trying to feel when we're trying to make some changes in our skiing. Are we choosing, you know, good visibility, and also time on task as well. So giving your student plenty of time to, you know, it's not just like one and done, giving them actual time on task where they can actually get to grips with it. So optimize the environment and the situation to lead your student to success. Second is, you know, using internal cues. And again, this should be, you know, it's hard to convey how I feel when I ski to somebody else and give that. But there's some really simple internal cues, like your toes should feel lighter than the heel in your boot. One that I identify with when I'm thinking about, you know, angulation is feeling my ribs and my hips getting closer together and feeling tension in the core. You can feel, you know, maybe light contact rather than heavy pressure on the front of the boot. These are things you can just draw people's attention to and are really useful and have them reflect on. External cues are extremely useful. A simple one might be just show the base of your skis above the fall line, or carving tram lines in the snow. You can literally stop and look and see whether the ski was gripping or skidding. Really, really useful. I like to use a lot of imagery and analogy. So, for example, okay, we're going to go down skiing on eggshells or rice paper and try not to, you know, like crack the shell or tear the paper. Or the analogy of cornering in a car, driving along the highway, turning the steering wheel and feeling your balance pulled to the outside of the car. Everyone can sort of identify with that, and it's something you can look to replicate in your ski. Using adjectives, I think, is really important. If you yell, turn your legs to a student, they're going to interpret that and do some version of turning their legs. If you describe to them properly, can you turn your legs slowly, gradually, smoothly? This is getting them towards like how this skill should be blended with the others into their skiing. So if you end up injecting more adjectives into your teaching, you're going to communicate a lot better to your students. And then finally, I find being able to deconstruct or vary a task if it's too challenging or, you know, maybe too easy. I find this comes a lot with experience. But being able to, for example, think about the components of a hockey stop. If we're struggling with the task in whatever it is, in final form, just taking one element of that, for example, the legs turning or the skis tipping or the balancing elements, and practice that in isolation and then come back to performing the task in final form. Being able to expand your task library so you have maybe a simpler version and a more challenging version of various tasks. And again, I think that comes with experience, and it's something to sort of actively work on as you're gaining more experience as an instructor. So let's go through a bit of a development strategy for this first skier. So remember, our goal here is some consistent grip from the whole ski, so we can get a bit more deflection and unlock some smooth turn linking. So I found a perfect picture here of really what the goal is for this student. You can see, you know, the picture on the left here, some nice tram lines in the snow. He's moving edge to edge, and you know, this is a great thing to work on with the student. So to start with, I'm gonna take him to that run there was maybe a dark blue, a steep blue pitch. So let's go to a green or an easy blue. But I want to make sure that he still has some speed, because I want him to feel the snow pushing back and some grip underneath his skis. I definitely don't want him to ski too slow. So the action that I'm working on with the student is really getting a bend in the knee to bring the hips a little back and a little lower. So we put him in a more athletic and centered stance. So it's definitely going to feel a little different for him. A lot of the cues that I would work with would be, again, feeling balance at the back of the arch, the idea that my toes are heavier than my heels, but still maintaining contact with the front of the boot. I'd definitely draw their attention to the tail of the ski gripping more and moving faster across the hill. And here I'm really going to celebrate success. I've tried to optimize the environment here, and when we get some good performance, we're going to celebrate the success there. So in terms of tasks, I might start with something like a J-turn, just going straight down the hill, finding the right speed, tipping the skis on edge. You know, we've maybe done a bit of a static demo, thinking about the position we want to be in. A little boot ski might be great here. That's going to put him balanced on the right part of the boot. And then maybe just trying a good big carve across the hill. And again, we can look at the marks that we make in the snow and see if he's left some train tracks or if the ski was skidding. We can see if the stance stays hip width apart or if the outside ski gets further away. Really, really useful. Then we can take that J-turn into a rollerblade turn where we can move from outside ski to outside ski and then unlock that the turn linking element here, where having better balance on our outside ski is going to enable to release that pressure and get a good toppling effect and link the turns nicely. And again, we're looking for, you know, linking the train tracks here like this gentleman is. So again, some other tasks we might use, you know, a little inside ski tap. I'd be asking him to lift the ski off the snow flat to make sure that we're balanced in the right spot, part of the ski. If he has a tendency to be forward, we might see him lifting the tail of the ski, keeping the tip on the snow. That might be a clue that the balance is still a little far forward. So if he's able to lift the ski off, inside ski up flat, that tells me his balance is probably roughly in the right place. Another strategy, again, he's an advanced skier, so we could do a challenging drill like being able to go from a flat ski and then hopping onto the edges. Again, adding a hopping element is going to, again, encourage him to stay balanced in the middle of the ski. So hopefully, maybe we've got some ideas in the chat about other development strategies that we could employ for this skier. So I'll call on Amy here to see if we've got any other suggestions from the chat or any questions.
Yeah, there was a couple of good suggestions there. You've mentioned hopping on the edges, jumping and landing flat. There's bouncing, I guess depending on the athletic ability or fitness, bounce might be better than a hop. Standing like 1,000 steps, standing on the outside ski, tapping one foot, tap the inside ski, shuffling forwards and back as you go through a turn, and then try and bring awareness for connecting the shin and heel together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, I really like, again, you know, when I'm working with, you know, again, 4.5 balance, any version of a, you know, a hop, a shuffle, a tap, you know, you're in the right ballpark, you know, with, you know, shuffling the feet. And again, I think, you know, adjectives are important here. So I'm going to ask for quick, small shuffling of the feet because I want him to be using the ankle. if we do, you know, big, long, you know, strides cross-country style, you know, it's not really sort of what we're after there. So, yeah, excellent, really good suggestions, and that's, yeah, all in the right ballpark there, yeah. So unless there's any other questions for clarifications there, we can, we'll move on. Awesome. So yeah, let's take a look at skier 2 here. So I found a video here. This is someone, they're doing, I think they're working on their level 3. They're doing some intermediate parallel turns here. So let's watch. Let's find the right spot in the video. Here we are. So again, you know, we'll watch this person skiing. We'll watch it full speed. We'll watch it in slow motion. But again, it's really important to consider the objective here. So this skier is, you know, they're trying to do some intermediate parallel turns. And critically, you know, they are going for their level 3 here. So this is, you know, an advanced skier performing an intermediate skiing demonstration. So we're going to watch the skis. We're going to watch to see if there's a good steering effort through the turn. We're going to see if there's a round turn shape here. We're going to look at his, you know, inclination, angulation, see if we're finding good balance on the outside ski, to see if this is the best demonstration of intermediate skiing that this skier can do. So let's watch the run full speed.
Well, no.
So again, when I'm watching, you know, this skier coming down here, I'm watching again the steering effort of the skis here in particular. I think is so crucial for intermediate skiers. So I'm looking for a really strong steering effort through the whole turn. So let's watch again in slow motion. And by the way, guys, if you ever want to, you know, find a little error in your own skiing, watch yourself in slow motion. It really highlights what's going on in your skiing. So yeah, let's watch this again in slow motion. So are we achieving a round turn shape? Well, I definitely see a bit of a twist and a tip. I definitely see the skis twisting and tipping there a little bit. So I'd definitely like to see this skier blend in a little bit more angulation and have a stronger steering effort from top to the middle to the bottom of the turn, rather than seeing, you know, a twist and a tip action. You know, we do see a little bit of dead space between the turns, right? So the turns aren't quite, you know, as linked together as they could be. And, you know, through the top of the turn here, above the foreline, well, you know, our skis are tipped onto their edges. And what I'd like to see at this point is a little bit more bending, a little bit more balance to the outside in order to direct the skis, you know, around the arc. So to really have the ski push the skier across the hill, you know, in a beautiful arc. What I tend to see is, you know, the skier tip inside and the outside ski can break away a bit. So we're really tipping the skis on the edges. Less through angulation and movements with the lower body. And we're sort of relying on inclination to get the skis on the edges. So as a consequence, the balance is on the inside ski. So that outside ski isn't pushing us directing us across the hill. And we don't see a steering effort, you know, through the arc of the turn there. So what would make this a stronger intermediate demonstration? And again, we see a lot of intermediate skiers, you know, skiing like this, you know, a bit tippy. Well, in order to get more control over speed and direction and to be able to, you know, vary turn shape and start to add performance, we want to add a little bit of, you know, angulation so that we can steer the skis through the whole arc and link our turns well. So prepare yourselves. Here comes a bit of physics. So you might have seen, you know, some of these diagrams in some of our material. So let's go through these and really understand, well, what's going on here? Why is you know, inclination by itself not such a great thing? Why do we need to blend in and add some angulation? So if we look at, you know, the top left here, you can see that our line of inclination changes through the turn. So, you know, from the foreline, we're sort of tipped in. As we reach the transition, the center of mass is over the base of support, and then it moves inside. And when I say line of inclination, I'm talking about that imaginary line, that little red dotted line that goes from our base of support, you know, the middle of our, you know, outside ski, up to our center of mass. That's our line of inclination. And the, you know, picture there in the bottom left, that shows us the forces acting on our center of mass. So we feel gravity pulling down on us and pulling us down the hill. And we feel centrifugal force pulling to the outside. So these are the forces that we're trying to balance in order to balance against that ground reaction force. When the snow pushes back, this is what we're trying to balance against. So when we align our balance here through inclination and angulation, then it's gonna deflect our mass across the hill. But if we look at the diagram here on the right, well, what if we add too much inclination? What if we add too much angulation? Well, if we add too much inclination and we move our center of mass inside the turn, we'll see, you know, gravity takes over and we're going to feel the pull down and inside. The ground reaction force isn't pushing, you know, against our center of mass evenly balanced. So it's going to add a bit of a tipping motion, and we're going to feel the tip inside. What if we aren't skiing fast enough? We don't have enough speed for inclination, but we add, you know, a bunch of angulation. We turn our legs and, you know, point our knees in, and we bend at the hip. Well, in that case, our center of mass is we're going to feel a pull to the outside. We're going to increase the centrifugal force and feel a pull to the outside, and sort of get high-sided a little bit. And it's a little bit like turning the handlebars of your bike. You turn them one way and you actually get pulled the other. So that's the game we're playing in terms of lateral balance, when we're trying to balance out the amount of inclination we have and add the right amount of angulation. These are the forces that we're trying to balance with. And the last concept, one more layer that we're going to put on this, one more concept I'm going to add to this is the idea of a platform angle. I'm sure you've heard the term edge angle before. The more we tip our skis, the greater the edge angle. But our platform angle is actually what's really critical in getting the ski to grip or not grip. And this is the measure of, again, the balance of inclination and angulation. So the platform angle, as we can see, you know, down here on the left, it's the angle of our ski and our line of inclination, that imaginary line between our base of support and center of mass there. So if this angle is 90 degrees or less, if we've added enough angulation to our line of inclination, then the ski can grip. Obviously, given the right, you know, the snow surface, and as long as you've tuned your edges, of course. However, if we do not add enough angulation and that platform angle is greater than 90 degrees, the ski will slip. The ski won't grip. So that's what we're looking for. So, you know, in terms of physics, this is how we know we've added, we've got the right balance of inclination and angulation. So I just wanted to add that final layer on there, so that we understand the principles behind, you know, what we're trying to achieve with this ski here. So again, add in the chat. So share with Amy in the chat, what would your development strategies be for, again, adding angulation to a skier here and helping them get some grip and balance on the outside ski. So I'll take you through, you know, what my development strategy might be. And we're going to use the same principles that we did before in terms of, you know, cues and setting up our student for success. But I'll explain sort of this sort of rehearsal performance principle, where I find that if we have an element that we need to practice, we can sort of practice this element in isolation, under ideal conditions, and out of context, if you like. So we're sort of isolating an action to perform. So I'd call this the rehearsal phase. So we're just going to focus on making the action. In this case, we're adding, some bend at the hip in order to tip the skis and balance on the outside skis. So we're adding some angulation. And this allows us to really connect action and outcome. So we should really notice the balance on the outside ski and the grip. Again, I might like to use the cues, the ribs and the hip coming together and that core tension. So an example of this might be something like a frog hop, where we stand across the hill, balanced on our edges, and we do a little sideways hop down the hill, and we land balanced on the edges. If we land and the skis slide away, we didn't add enough angulation, we weren't balanced on the edges. Hopefully we get to a point where we can take off and land on the edges and stay in place and not slip down the hill. So this is us adding that angulation and getting the student balanced on the outside ski. But, obviously this takes place outside of skiing arc to arc. So I'd call this the rehearsal. So now we need to bring this back into skiing. So now we're going to try this as a performance. So we're going to put that movement back into context and place it in, the linking of the arcs. So this is where we need to talk about timing. So when do we add this to the turn? Is it happening at the top, the middle, the bottom of the turn? This is, again, where descriptive and adjectives come in. So I might suggest that, hey, this is the movement that we're trying to add. This is the action that we're trying to perform and the outcome we're looking for. And I'd get them to try it in the foreline. So when your skis are down the hill, we need to be balanced on that outside ski by, bending the hip. And we could encourage this with something like a boot touch. We could add a timing element by asking them to touch their boot, 3, 2, 1, touch, something like that. And of course, we've got a couple of examples here from either dragging the poles or having the hands on the shoulders and the poles along the shoulder there. And again, I'm using a lot of internal, external cues here and a lot of adjectives to describe how we're going to do it. So same principles as before, but this time we're using that sort of rehearsal performance principle where we're rehearsing the movement in isolation to get a good learning effect, to really link cause and effect, and then we're placing it back into context, skiing arc to arc. So Amy, did we have any suggestions for how we can add, some angulation to some of our students and some strategies that have worked in the past?
Yeah, one you've already said, dragging the outside pole. Someone recommended.
How are you?
Can I ask who's ever speaking to mute their phone?
Good. I'm just on my way home.
I'm gonna mute them there. There, I've muted. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Good job.
Long leg, short leg. So you shorten the inside leg through the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Gorilla turns or rollerblade turns. I must admit, I've not heard of gorilla turns myself. A touch outside of ski boot on outside ski throughout the turn. Hip to grip and nose over toes. They're all giving us examples.
Yeah, again, I've definitely used the, shortening the inside leg principle. And again, the skier here, bottom right, you can see that now these, getting up to speed, you can see the inside leg, that knee is moving up and out of the way to allow the skis to tip on edge a little bit more. And again, this is a bit more of a high performance example. Obviously, the student we're working with, we're trying to add this into sort of intermediate skiing, right? But again, shortening the inside leg idea is really great. And again, I've used it. You can start with a bit of a J turn by, again, just moving that inside leg up and unweighting the inside ski, allowing the outside ski to tip. Starting with a bit of a J turn and developing from there. I've used that a lot. It's been really effective.
Hi, Tom. Just popping in here with a comment there. I really like what you're saying there, if we see it again, about using that shortening of the leg. Do you find that when you focus on that inside body a little bit, do you find you get, with higher performance skiers, a little bit more natural angulation occurring sometimes, as opposed to like a forced movement or something where, like the rib to hip idea where you get some crunches happening occasionally,
yes,
rather than a balanced movement as you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can definitely do, again, there's versions, stuff like, you know, the teapot turn, you know, hand on the hip and things like that. And again, when you're working with, let's say, intermediate to, you know, advanced students, again, they can really add too much. And again, this is where our descriptive elements come in, where, you know, hey, gradually, smoothly, blend in, things like that. I'm rarely using terms like suddenly, abruptly, you know, make this movement big and quick, and, you know, we're trying to, you know, it's a very subtle coordination of movements, you know, skiing. So again, just something really simple, like just tracking, you know, in a nice straight line, and then just gradually, slowly, just lightening and unweighting the inside ski. Again, I like to use the imagery of the inside knee moving up towards the inside shoulder. So it really helps just to maintain discipline fore and aft. And again, yeah, if you find some really good natural inclination and natural angulation and bounce on the outside ski. And I'll just add that, you know, the reason why this hands on the shoulders really helps is what it does is it takes the hands and it brings them in and up. So what it does, it just raises the center of mass. So if we think about a triangle and we raise the center of mass, it makes it more unstable. So once we're adding a little bit of instability to our skier and requiring them to make more movements, challenging them to bounce more to the outside. Next time you get a chance to go skiing, you know, put the hands on the hips, make it, you know, do some little rollerblade turns, put the hands on the shoulders, and then put the hands on the heads. And you'll notice you'll be getting a little less stable and it gets a little harder to bounce to the outside. So yeah, it's a good core workout.
Another suggestion was stork turn progression from a skidded stork turn to a carved stork turn.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, again, a stork turn, fantastic. So stork turn, you know, leaving the tip on the snow and lifting the tail of the ski. Fantastic. Any skier that, you know, tends to hang out in the back seat a little bit, really great for just bringing them up and forwards. You know, it's the right idea, going from, you know, varying the ski performance, going from more of a skidded turn with a bit more twisting. You know, we saw those elements in this skier here. We saw a bit more twisting elements. And again, we're looking for a bit more steered elements, so getting the skis up on the edges with a little bit more.
We have a question from Tracy.
Yeah.
Would you use a video of the person so they can see what they actually look like rather than what they think they look like?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that's a really good place to go to if you've been working with them a little bit. You know, maybe there's a disconnect. You know, you could say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how I don't know, how much grip do you think you're getting from the skis, or, you know, something like that, or how, you know, far forward, how much are you bending your knee, how much are you bending your whatever. Maybe there is a bit of a disconnect, and that's, again, phones are great. You can whip the phone out, watch them on video, and like, wow, I do stand really tall. Wow, I thought I was getting down really low. Yeah, very, very useful.
Another suggestion was patience through the turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it links into that idea of, you know, using adjectives. So making sure that we're, you know, using adjectives like, you know, again, we're talking about adding some angulation here. So, hey, smoothly, you know, bend the hip to get the skis on the edges, or slowly, gradually, yeah, you know, progressively through the turn. Yeah, just, yeah, make sure that you've got something specific that we're talking about, that they understand the action that they're making and the outcome they're looking for. And we're really describing how this should be done, you know, like when it should happen in the arc of the turn and how quickly. Any other questions before we wrap up? Fantastic. Well, I'll sign off and just say, well, thank you to everybody for attending the session. Thank you for anybody watching this online. If you've made it to the end here, thank you for checking this video out. Yeah, and thank you to you know, the CSIA BC for putting together this speaker series. yeah, I think it's great to engage with the members in the summertime, and hopefully I'll see some of you on the slopes this winter. I'll hand
Tom,
back to you,
that was
Lucy.
awesome. Thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure everyone else did as well. How difficult was it for you? Just ask you one more question. Getting your head into skiing this time of year, was it tricky? Yeah, it was great.
Sure.
I was loving it.
Yeah,
Help
a
me.
little bit, sure. You know, I'm one of those people that, you know, I never went to teach in Australia, right? So I do like when I put the skis away and the boots away at the end of the season, I'm on the bike the next day and I'm into bike mode, right? So I was like,
just turn off skiing and then start your summer and fresh. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I watched I watched a bit of skiing online for sure to get my head in the game a little bit. And actually, do you know what? I'll just shout out to you know, the All Tracks Academy channel, Guy Hetherington there. And again, you know, it's good skiing. Again, you see some good development strategies, and again, it's just a very good teacher explaining things really simply. So again, shout out to the All Tracks channel. Deb Armstrong, again, another good teacher. Again, good skiing, explains things simply, and a good communicator. Yeah.
That's it, right, Tom? Like, all we need is more people like yourself, like, you know, like these guys, like Deb and all those people who are just putting it out there for us to have more to think about skiing when we're not on snow. I think it's great. I really enjoy it. Cool. I really liked particularly your focus on like getting to that limiting factor, the real limiting factor, and your use of cues and adjectives and being very specific. I thought that was great. So thank you so much. Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And then from the BC board, to all of you for taking part, thank you for listening. And this will be posted on the website. That's the snowprobc.com. It will be on there. We'll give everyone a heads up to let them know when that is actually on there. But it will be very soon. We definitely want to thank National for lending us their Zoom account and helping us to put this all together and get everybody notified that we're actually doing this, you know, with those emails. Really fantastic. And we also are really excited for our next one. We're keeping going with this, and our next one should be in the first week of September, so look out for that. Sarah Byrne, she's a physiotherapist, and she's going to do one for us on injury prevention tips and ideas for dry season training. So yeah, we're really excited about that, and we really thank you for coming and taking part today. All right, thanks, Tom.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.
Thanks again, everyone.
All right.
Bye, Tom. Thanks.